we gather today 115 years after the inaugural assembly of our network, which took place 115 years ago. In September 1910, nearly 400 of our predecessors convened at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. for the first ever meeting of what was then called the National Conference of Catholic Charities. They left that gathering resolved to promote solidarity and professionalism throughout the Catholic Charities movement and to serve collectively as the attorney for the poor across our great country. Consider just for a moment how proud those pioneering women and men would be that 115 years later, nearly 600 of us have come together here in beautiful San Juan to continue to carry that sacred mission forward. As we celebrate our 115th anniversary, we must also pause to consider the legacy and lessons of our past and how they inform our present and our future. From the very beginning, our network and your agencies have been defined by the ability, time and time again, to confront enormous challenges and bring comfort and hope to communities, families, and individuals facing their hardest, most difficult days. This is why we exist, and this tradition dates back even further than our first annual meeting. For example, take Catholic Charities San Francisco, led so capably today by Ellen Hammerly and her team. One of our oldest agencies, Catholic Charities San Francisco, traces its roots back to one of the deadliest natural disasters our nation has ever experienced. In the early morning of April 18th, 1906, a 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck the coast of Northern California, resulting in devastating damage in San Francisco and other communities along the San Andreas Fault. In San Francisco, buildings were reduced to rubble in seconds, and the earthquake quickly gave way to a massive deadly fire that burned throughout the city for 4 days until it was finally extinguished by rain. Tragically, it is estimated that more than 3,000 people died and another 250,000 were left homeless, including thousands of children who lost one or both parents. As we always have, the Catholic Church sprang into action. A group of Catholic women joined together to come to the aid of thousands of suddenly homeless orphans, later known as Little Children's Aid. This group laid the foundation for what is now Catholic Charities San Francisco, and they were one of the only diocesan-based Catholic charities organized prior to our first annual meeting in 1910. Over the ensuing 115 years, our network has continued to answer the call when our country, our church, and our neighbors faced monumental challenges. During the Great Depression, Catholic Charities agencies around the country rallied in the face of widespread, debilitating poverty and hunger. At the same time, Monsignor John O'Grady and his colleagues urged the government to provide a stronger social safety net for working people and the poor, playing an instrumental role in the passage of New Deal programs benefiting so many people in need. At the end of World War II, the Catholic Charities Network quickly engaged in the work of assisting refugees displaced by the war, in accordance with the Catholic Church's sacrosanct and long-held commitment to welcome newcomers. It is a commitment we take just as seriously today as we continue to serve vulnerable people on the move in whatever ways we can, despite callously abrupt cancellation of government contracts and reprehensible treatment of immigrants and refugees. Yesterday, I shared the news with our board and all diocesan directors that CCUSA has agreed to serve as the replacement agency for the USCCB in order to receive the 5th and final year of its Preferred Communities Grant, which provides 23 Catholic Charities agencies with funds for particularly vulnerable refugees needing intensive case management. In the 1980s, many Catholic Charities agencies were on the front lines of the AIDS pandemic, offering care to those suffering, not because it was the popular thing to do, or even regarded as a particularly safe thing to do at the time, but because it was the morally right thing to do. There are so many more examples where Catholic Charities rose to the occasion and met the moment with its quintessential mercy and impactful service. We will have a chance to discuss more of those examples later today when I have the privilege of speaking with 3 of my predecessors, each of whom I'd like to recognize now, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them for being here. Father Fred Kammer, Father Larry Snyder, and Sister Donna Markham. As we look back on their tenures and the broader history of Catholic Charities in the United States, it is clear that our work has been defined by disasters, chaos, disruption, epidemics, and upheavals. I know that this year, all of us have felt at times besieged, discouraged, and disheartened. But know this, you are not alone. Look around this room. Look at our history. I will speak more about this and our many reasons for hope in a few minutes. But I want to end this brief reflection on our past with a simple statement for us all to keep in mind. This is not a moment, it's the movement. In other words, our current moment may seem particularly chaotic, gratuitously cruel, and deeply anxiety-provoking. But in reality, this is not unusual for us, and our work is much bigger than this moment in time. This is not a moment, it's the movement. Okay, I must admit, that is not my original line. But I think it's apropos in a few different ways. Does anyone know where that quote comes from? It was penned by a fellow appreciator of history, and more importantly, a descendant of this spectacular island. Okay, here is another favorite quote from the same person. Immigrants, we get the job done. Those are, of course, lines from Hamilton, written by the great Lin-Manuel Miranda. And like all of you, I was so thrilled to experience the cultural richness of Puerto Rico this week. And what a joy to be hosted by, with apologies to Lynn, the greatest cultural ambassador for Puerto Rico. And for those of you who were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland 2 years ago, the one with the truly great dance moves, Father Enrique. His remarks this morning were just a preview. We're going to hear and learn more from Father Enrique throughout the conference. I'm especially looking forward to tomorrow's plenary panel discussion. Well, he'll be joined by Archbishop Gonzalez and my wonderful Catholic Charities USA colleague, Kim Burgo, to discuss how Puerto Rico responded to Hurricanes Maria and Fiona and a series of earthquakes, and how we can all be better prepared for disasters. Father Enrique and his team also have planned a beautiful liturgy and local host reception for us, which I understand will include some dancing, so get ready. They have been wonderful partners, and I'd like to now ask every staff member, volunteer, and board member here from Caritas de Puerto Rico to stand and receive a round of applause. I also want to thank another group of people, many of whom you may not know, whose wisdom, commitment, and dedication animates all that we do. So that you will recognize them for the rest of the conference and hopefully introduce yourself, we're putting their photos and names on the screens now, and I'm asking all of them to stand. Please join me in thanking the members of our Board of Directors of Catholic Charities USA. I would be remiss if I did not also highlight a now former member of our board who is here with us today. On July 1st, Neil Black concluded his term as our board chair. Neil has been and continues to be a steadfast champion and supporter of our work, and CCUSA has benefited immensely from his wisdom and guidance. It was Neil who commissioned us to embark on a new strategic plan. And on a personal note, Neil chaired the search committee, which radically changed the course of my life. Please join me in thanking Neil Black for his 9 years of dedication to our shared mission. And for our final applause break, I promise, as we celebrate our history and our enduring mission, we also know that it's a mission we share with our colleagues throughout the world who serve vulnerable people on behalf of the Catholic Church. As many of you know, CCUSA is part of a global network of Catholic charitable organizations called Caritas Internationalis. And we are so grateful that the Secretary General of Caritas Internationalis, Alistair Dutton, has joined us this week for our annual gathering. Please join me in welcoming Alistair and thanking him for his support and leadership. We discussed our rich history and the inspiration and resolve we can derive from it. But it's not just our past that is illuminating. I stand before you filled with confidence in our future, in your boundless capacity to make a difference to those most in need, in your communities and in your collective capacity to continue to expand, innovate, and enhance our work. I know this because with my colleagues at CCUSA, I've spent the last year and a half developing our new strategic plan. This involved an intense period of listening to all of you and thinking deeply about the opportunities that lie ahead for us. It resulted in a plan that we are thrilled to share with you. There are copies on your tables right now that we hope you'll keep and spend some time with, but I'd like to give you a brief window into the plan now. To start, we identified the signs of the times, the ever-changing societal trends and factors that are shaping today's challenges to vulnerable people and in turn, shaping our own ministries. Some are abstract, but many of the signs of the times we identified are issues you work to address on a daily basis. First, I don't think I need to tell anyone in this room that housing costs and housing scarcity and food costs and food scarcity are reaching dire proportions across the country. Your clients are navigating a world in which basic necessities are increasingly difficult to obtain and maintain. And your ability to come to their aid is compromised by another sign of the times: staff shortages and high staff turnover rates throughout the social services industry. Weather-related disasters also continue to grow in severity and frequency. We know that all of our communities, even those not traditionally vulnerable to climate-related disasters, need to prepare for the unexpected. And we are so proud of the work our network continues to do in the disaster response and recovery space. Mental health struggles are also on the rise, with young people especially vulnerable. Research we commissioned last year through Campos showed that 39% of Americans between the ages of 18 to 34 reported feeling lonely or isolated, always or often, far outpacing any other age group. Another sign of the times is directly related to increasing feelings of isolation, the rising rates of polarization. Our world today is filled with forces that manipulate us into feeling as if we have nothing in common and that our priorities and values are diametrically opposed to our fellow human beings. We all yearn for reminders of what I think most of us deep down know to be true, that at our core, we all share the same hopes and dreams and the same worries and concerns, that we are much more alike than we are different. That's why the importance of localization is another one of our signs of the times. To overcome isolation and polarization, we need strong neighborhoods and local communities where we get to know, understand, and empathize with our neighbors. Localized strategies to address poverty and other complex problems are more important today than ever before. So as we read these signs of the times, how are we going to respond at CCUSA? How are we going to orient our work in light of all of this? Throughout this process, we remained laser-focused on the question we called our North Star. Will this help our member agencies more effectively and efficiently serve people in need? We exist to serve you and to help you serve your communities as effectively and comprehensively as possible. And so, as we reflected on the signs of the times through this lens, we developed 3 overarching strategies: lead nationally, connect regionally, strengthen locally. These 3 areas of focus include a wide array of tactics and initiatives beneath them, and I won't go into every single one today, but I will give you an overview of what each of these local areas might mean for you and for our network as a whole. Let's go in reverse order and start with strengthen locally. Knowing how critical localized strategies are to addressing today's signs of the times, we are determined to make available to you resources and support structures that will allow you to be even more effective in your communities. We're going to increase our data sophistication, establishing CCUSA as a research hub that your agencies can rely upon. We're investing significantly in training agency-level staff in the foundations of public advocacy so that you can effectively steer local lawmakers toward policies that will benefit the people you serve. And we're going to develop and expand the non-programmatic assistance we offer to our member agencies so that we can equip you with contemporary best practices and tools in the areas of Catholic identity, staff formation, board governance, fundraising, financial management, information technology, human resources development, marketing and communications, and more. Here's the bottom line. We are seeking to bring greater resources and more of our time to provide greater support to you in the day-to-day operational sides of your work. And we hope you'll take us up on that in whatever ways make the most sense for your individual agencies. Our second focal area is connect regionally. What do we mean by that? We want to harness the scale of our member agencies for greater impact through regional collaboration. We share commonalities across the full network, of course, but we also have particular synergies and opportunities for collaboration among our neighboring agencies. At CCUSA, we want to allow you to take greater advantage of those opportunities. With this in mind, we have grouped our agencies into 6 geographical regions. On the screen behind me, you can see a map showing the states and territories that fall within each region. We have also hired CCUSA regional coordinators for each of those regions. Your new regional coordinators are, for Region 1, Kristen Schlichty, who so many of you know from her work in member services at CCUSA. For Region 2, Angelica Reyes, currently with Catholic Charities of Central Texas, and she will begin later this month. For Region 3, Denise Ogilvie, currently with Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas. She will begin in November. For Region 4, Peggy Arizi, who again you know from her years of excellent member services work at CCUSA. For Region 5, Lucreta Cobbs, who you know from our fabulous government relations team at CCUSA. And for Region 6, Ben Wortham, who has previously led our integrated health work at CCUSA. Can the new regional coordinators who are in the room please stand? These 6 colleagues, all of whom have a deep knowledge of and passion for the work of Catholic Charities, will provide a new level of personal service and connection from CCUSA to the member agencies in each respective region. They already have started having direct conversations with diocesan directors throughout their regions to learn about your challenges and your goals. In the coming months, your regional coordinators also will introduce new opportunities for regional convenings, both in person and digital, to allow you to continue to learn from one another and identify opportunities for collaboration. Another key element of Connect regionally is the expansion of our hub and spoke model, which is currently being used to deploy disaster aid throughout the network. We want to expand this concept to include other programmatic areas and allow for a more comprehensive base of goods and supplies that can be quickly sent to agencies that need them from a warehouse within your region. Our final area of focus is lead nationally. We want to inspire the public, inside and outside the church, to appreciate, support, and join our shared mission. We want to forge new national collaborations that will benefit the network, and we want to do everything we can to open the eyes of policymakers to the needs of our agencies and your clients. Those are big, broad goals, but we have some specific tactical plans in place and others still in development. Just know that we aim to further elevate our voice, to shine a greater spotlight on your work, the people you serve, and the societal challenges we are collectively seeking to address. We want to effectively and emphatically speak out on the issues that matter most to our agencies, from hunger, homelessness, and workforce development, to migration, mental health support, and disaster response. We want to find new ways for the Catholic Charities Network to help address some of our nation's most pressing problems, like social isolation and the horrible scourge of gun violence that we've tragically been reminded of again and again and again over the past few months. That issue in particular always has been deeply personal for me. My family lives close to Newtown, Connecticut, and our children were not far from the age of those children whose lives were cut short that agonizing December day at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012. I am convinced that the Catholic Church and Catholic Charities and all of us can be, must be, part of the solution to end the scourge of gun violence in the United States. At its core, your work brings individuals and families within communities closer to one another. Your work spreads hope, joy, and optimism, relief, and kindness. You bring the gospel to life in your communities and for your clients. In fact, you remind me daily of my favorite gospel passage when Jesus says in John's gospel, "I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly." Your work is life-giving and makes the joy of life and the promise of new life palpable for all those you serve. And we are going to continue to celebrate that. One way we'll do that is through People of Hope. For 2 days in late July, we hosted 42 staff and volunteers from various Catholic Charities agencies at our offices in Alexandria. Those 42 traveled from all around the country to be professionally recorded, telling one story of an interaction with a client that particularly touched their hearts. These video testaments will be the centerpiece of People of Hope, a mobile museum that beginning next spring will travel the country for 2.5 years, stopping throughout the continental US to share powerful stories of neighbors helping neighbors through the work of Catholic Charities. You just saw Kara's story a few moments ago. You'll see 2 more during this convening. These stories are as powerful as they are authentic. Our hope is that this exhibit will raise awareness about the urgent, merciful work you carry out in the name of Catholic Charities. Since I started in this role a little more than 2 years ago, I have visited 53 Catholic Charities agencies in person, and I don't plan to slow down. So if I haven't made it to your agency yet, I hope to be there soon. From these visits, I know firsthand how transformative, how important, and how truly holy your work is. And now we're going to ensure that people across this country know it too. Even more broadly, we anticipate that People of Hope will inspire people of goodwill around the country to follow your lead and find ways to encounter, accompany, and serve their neighbors in need. In addition to bringing People of Hope to your communities, we plan to bring it to lawmakers as we continue to highlight for them how effective and efficient your work is. We at Catholic Charities serve more people for fewer dollars with more mercy. As I like to tell elected officials, Republicans and Democrats alike, if you get a better offer, take it. Of course, this year has been challenging, a very challenging time for our network and for other organizations dedicated to serving people in need. I know you felt it in your communities, and the current government shutdown has only made things worse for vulnerable people and the organizations supporting them. But I want to share with you some reflections I've now offered a few different times, including with cardinals and bishops and other senior leaders of the church. To be candid, I am far less worried about the cruel and callously abrupt cancellation of government contracts and funding cuts than I am of the violent rhetoric, the flagrantly false accusations levied against the church's social ministries to care for people who are suffering, poor, frightened, and vulnerable. And yet, our message to those who would disparage our service to the poor, to people without homes, to refugees and migrants is this: we can be reviled, mocked, defunded, made the object of your calumny, and still, in your own hour of need, we will feed you. In your own hour of need, we will provide safe shelter for your family, behold you, call you by name, offer you our merciful care, lift your family out of poverty, heal you, bless you, and restore your dignity. That is who we are. It's what the gospel demands of us. Despite the challenges of our current reality, we have so many reasons for hope and optimism. We are reassured by the rich history of our network, knowing that the men and women of Catholic Charities have persevered through difficult times before, through wars and depressions and epidemics, and come out stronger on the other side. We are emboldened and inspired by the legacy they passed down to us. In times of turmoil and disruption, the Catholic Charities Network has always risen to the occasion and met the moment, finding a way to come to the aid of those most in need. And that's what you all have continued to do this year. You have adapted and made plans to navigate a changing landscape. We don't have all the answers yet, but I know this: we will never abandon our mission. You might as well ask us to give up our faith. This is our moment. We were made for this. Who better than people of faith to be the visible sign of hope in this moment when so many people are frightened and demoralized? And who better to study and respond to the signs of the times and our evolving landscape than the very people in this room, the successors to those 400 pioneers who gathered for the first time 115 years ago. I am incredibly proud to be among you, to carry on this mission alongside you, and to celebrate the gift you are to your communities, to our church, and to our nation. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being people of hope, for being the reason for my hope and the reason for the hope of so many. And to echo Lin-Manuel Miranda, we may be working through the unimaginable, but we will rise up. We are not throwing away our shot. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Thank you.